They say old men get sentimental about their homes. Maybe that's true. Maybe it was the dent in the banister from when she was 6, or the scratch on the kitchen tile from her prom heels. 42 years I lived there. 42. But when Caroline sat me down last October and smiled too wide, I knew what was coming wasn't kindness. It was strategy. If you've ever been pushed out by your own blood, like, share, and subscribe, because this isn't a story about getting old. It's a story about getting even. Dad, this isn't safe anymore, she said. You're forgetting things. Slipping. What if you fall? She'd rehearsed it. Her husband Mark stood behind her nodding like a hired backup dancer. They'd picked the place already, a high-end care facility, with daily Sudoku, gluten-free porridge, and call buttons I wasn't old enough to need. They called it dignity. I called it exile. But I didn't argue. I signed the paper she slid across the table. Power of attorney. Temporary placement. Just while we renovate, she promised. Fix the pipes, redo the kitchen. You'll love it when it's done. She thought I didn't notice the design boards, the contractor emails, the realtor business card in her purse. She didn't want to fix the house. She wanted to flip it. That night, I packed my essentials. But before I left, I made one call. To Harold, my lawyer of 30 years. I said only one sentence. She's moving fast. I need you to move faster. Because while my daughter plotted her open-concept dream kitchen, I was about to hand the keys to a stranger who didn't even know her name. She forgot that old men remember everything, especially betrayal. The care facility wasn't bad. Clean sheets, nice staff, but it wasn't home. It was a holding cell with throw pillows. I sat by the window every morning and watched cars drive past, none of them hers. Caroline hadn't visited since she dropped me off with a bag of sugar-free mints and fake concern. But Harold did. He came on a Tuesday, wore a gray coat, same one he'd worn to my wife's funeral. He laid the documents flat on my lap. Sale agreement. Transfer of deed. The house I bought in 1979 for $44,000 was now worth just over $1.2 million. I signed without blinking. The buyer was a woman named Tony, a single mother, schoolteacher, 2 kids, and the best part? She paid cash. I sold it under market on purpose. Not because I needed money, because I wanted speed. Caroline had no clue. She thought I'd been tucked away in a fog of tapioca and daytime TV. But every day she was too busy to visit. I was on the phone, rewriting the deed, transferring bank accounts, and building a new will. One without her name anywhere near it. She forgot that legal ownership doesn't come from blood. It comes from the man holding the pen. The sale closed on a Friday. That same day, her contractor arrived with a van full of marble samples and demolition tools, and was promptly turned away by the new owner. She called me in a rage. Dad, someone's in the house. A woman. She says she owns it. I waited a beat before answering. She does. You can't do that. I just did. She stormed into the care home 2 days later, heels clicking like accusations, lips pursed in a line that used to get her what she wanted. Not this time. You sold my house, she hissed before even sitting down. I looked up from my chessboard. It was never your house. You said I could renovate it. I said you could take care of me. You chose demolition instead. Mark stood behind her, arms folded, playing backup once again. I ignored him. He was never the problem. She was. You tricked me. No, I said calmly. You underestimated me. She slammed her hand on the table. You've been manipulated. You're not well. This is elder abuse. The nurse poked her head in, startled. I waved her off. Caroline, I said, voice steady. I've passed every cognitive test they've given me. You know why? Because I'm not sick. Just old. And old doesn't mean blind. She thought the years dulled me. But time doesn't erase memory. It etches it deeper. She started pacing. You're broke without that house, Dad. You've ruined your security. I laughed. Not a chuckle, a deep, deliberate laugh. Then I slid the portfolio from beneath the table. Inside, account statements, retirement investments she never asked about, a living trust she assumed was still in her favor. I'm not broke, I said. I'm just not funding your ambition anymore. Her face changed then. The panic behind the rage. Because she hadn't just lost a house. She'd lost control. And worse, she realized I had been planning this all along. The visit ended with slammed doors and thinly veiled threats. She said I was mentally unstable, that she'd talked to her attorney. I told her to send a postcard when she found one that could time travel, because everything had already been signed, sealed, and filed with the county. There was nothing left for her to touch. The next morning, I packed my things. Not because I'd been evicted, but because I'd never intended to stay. The nursing home was just a transition space, a waiting room while the ink dried. I left no forwarding address. Only a message with the front desk. Please tell my daughter I've moved on. Tony, the buyer, offered me her in-law suite for a while. No rent, just kindness. I declined politely. I had other plans. A small cottage upstate, near the woods. Paid for in full. Simple. Quiet. Mine. Because disappearing isn't weakness. It's power. It's saying, you don't get to know where I am, because you never cared when I was here. Caroline called for a week straight. Left voicemails laced with panic and desperation, then guilt, then threats, then apologies wrapped in accusation. I didn't answer a single one. Instead, I left a voicemail on her phone. Just one. You don't get to abandon your father and inherit his life. You don't get to forget who raised you and still claim what he built. I'm not angry. I'm just done. And then I changed my number. I live by a lake now. Nothing fancy. Just a weathered dock, a quiet porch, and a neighbor who brings me sweet potatoes from her garden. Some mornings I fish. Some afternoons I write. No one calls me Mr. Thompson. They just call me Jack. And that's exactly how I like it. Tony sends postcards now and then, photos of the house. She kept the rose bushes. Painted the shutters navy blue, like Martha always wanted. Her boys ride their bikes on the same sidewalk Caroline scraped her knees on. The house is alive again. Not flipped. Not gutted. Lived in. That matters more to me than equity ever did. As for Caroline, last I heard, she was mid-divorce. Mark left her when the money dried up. Contractors don't take IOUs. Especially not when a property deed turns out to belong to someone else. She tried to track me down once. Through Harold, then Tony. No one gave her anything. She wanted a meeting. Closure. A second chance. I left her a letter instead. You stopped seeing me as a father the day you saw me as a transaction. I hope you find peace. But you won't find me. It wasn't revenge. Not really. It was correction. Because sometimes, the final gift a parent can give isn't money or property, it's consequence. And I wanted her to learn what it meant to stand on her own, without inheriting the ground beneath her. Thank you for staying with me through this quiet reckoning. Like, share, and subscribe for more stories where the forgotten remember, and the betrayed reclaim everything in silence.